My name's Robin Gibson. I work for the Winston-Salem Police Department for the Forensic Services Division. I'm a forensic services technician. I respond to crime scenes to document them first, and then we collect evidence. So after we photograph or do a video or any sketches, then we decide what is of evidentiary value. So we'll dust for fingerprints, we'll swab for DNA, we can swab for red substance, which we know is possibly blood. We seize clothing that suspects may have left behind and any other evidence that the detective wants seized. Not only do we respond to crime scenes, sometimes they bring us evidence here to process for fingerprints and DNA. For instance, I have a gun here that a lot of officers sometimes bring us from off the streets, and we'll put this in the cyano chamber, which is short for cyanoacrylate or super glue. So the fumes in the chamber, once it reaches a certain humidity, will adhere to the oils and moisture and fingerprints that may have been left behind on the gun or any type of evidence we put in here. And then I would process my gun for any fingerprints. If I have any prints that I don't think will lift correctly, I can photograph them first on our copy stand, which is over here. Photograph my gun, zoom in and photograph any fingerprints we may have, and then put a piece of tape down and lift my fingerprints and submit them to the latent print examiners to evaluate the prints.
I'm a latent print examiner, the Winston-Salem Police Department. Our role is to analyze latent prints that our technicians recover from crime scenes and compare them to known impressions in an attempt to put a name to those fingerprints. Not every fingerprint that we receive from the scene is going to be good or clear, and so that is one of the decisions we have to make before we can even do a comparison. If it's good enough for a comparison, we can compare to victim prints retrieved at the crime scene as well, or we can run it through a database. Hopefully the database will kick back a name that we can compare and potentially pass on to the detectives.
What we have here is the SPECS hand scope, a piece of evidence from a crime scene that may have a stain on it, some type of bodily fluid. I can use this and turn the lights out in the room. I can examine my item for any fibers, bodily fluids that may be on the object. Here's one of our forensics Tahoes. We respond to anything as minor as property calls. If someone steals a car, we'll process those for fingerprints, house break-ins, burglaries, and then into more serious crimes such as armed robberies, discharging firearms, assaults, sexual assaults, up to homicides. So we have a lot of equipment in here that'll help with those types of calls. So I mentioned discharging firearms. If we go to those types of scenes, we'll lay down evidence markers and seize them in these little envelopes right here that we have back here. We keep gloves back here because we always handle our evidence with gloves so we don't contaminate anything. We also have GSR kits, which are gunshot residue evidence collection kits. We have them for surface and for hands. So if we have a suspect that we think just fired a weapon, we would use this on their hands to see if there's any gunshot residue. And then if we have a car that we think something was shot out of, we'll use this for surface GSR. We assist the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office for their calls as well. Every day that we load up for work, we have our fingerprint case that we take on calls to process for fingerprints. And we also have a fire kit. So in here we are issued fire boots for any fire investigations we go to, fire gear, and a helmet. And we're also issued half-mast respirators for any scenes that might have anything toxic in the air. All right, so if I'm on a scene and I have a piece of evidence that I need to seize, the first thing that I'm gonna do is photograph it. So I'm gonna do an overall view of the area. And I'm gonna come over and get a specific view of it. I'm gonna lay my evidence marker down with the item of evidence, do another specific. I'm gonna back up so I can get another overall showing where this item of evidence is in relation to the entire scene. Now that I have all of my evidence photographed, I'm going to write on my envelope, one black cell phone with clear case from evidence marker number 1. I'm gonna put on a new glove so we're not contaminating evidence. I'm gonna seize the cell phone and write down a seize time. So 15:14. And then I'll transport this item of evidence back to Beatty, where evidence management is located, package it, and store it. If that's something you would like to do, we would love to have you here at the Forensic Services Division at Winston-Salem Police Department.